Alrighty.
Emily.
So, let's start with...
They each have 2 snack boxes in the fridge.
Okay. I'm recording now, hon.
Okay.
Alright, so you need to declare and initialize your variables. Okay, so first things first. The thing that I've highlighted here specifically is you know that this is a variable and it allows something to happen. In this case, what it's going to do is it's just printing the variable to the screen, just so it shows up in the sentence nice and clean, blah, blah, blah. This reason I highlighted this one specifically, though, is I don't know if they've covered it, but this type of technique of doing the variable is called camel case. It's one of my favorite. Personal choice, completely. There's, I think, 3 or 4 ways that are common. It usually depends on where you work or what language you're playing in. They have a certain way they like to do things. Beyond that, doesn't matter. The big thing with variables is you want to try and give them, when you're declaring, you want to give them a name that kind of helps describe what they're going to be doing. So in this case we need my current age. Okay. Oh, I like that. So it's just like a normal ID where it finishes it for you. Okay, so we've declared it. Nothing magical, we just gave it a name. Now, normally you would come up with the name, but in this case they're making it really simple on you, and they've given you the name already, so great. Now, let's initialize the variable. Some languages you're allowed to put NIL for nil or nothing. And that's an oversimplification. It's a lot more complicated than nothing, but it's usually NIL is used as a placeholder in certain languages for giving you nothing at all. Some cases you can just create the name of the variable, so you declare it, and then you give it nothing. And that is how it just says, okay, I have a variable, it does nothing, and then we're good to go from there. So in this case, we know our variable is an int, or an integer. And if you have questions about that, there's various types of numerical variables where you can have integers, which is your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a float, which can be to 2 decimal points. So whatever number you create, if you just initialize a float and call it, let's say x equals 12, it'll automatically put .00 at the end for you, and so on and so forth. Your best bet is just to look those up, because they're almost, I'm pretty sure they're the same across almost every language. Whether they're int, string, an array, and all that stuff. And they'll explain better. An int has a certain range of numbers that you can use, which is why you'd want to use that. Some people think, well, if I use this type of a number variable, I can just go wild and go with the biggest numbers. The problem with that is each variable gets a chunk of memory, and that chunk of memory is important, because if we go nuts, we expand the amount of memory that we actually have, or go to the end of it, and then we actually start causing problems like crashing and stuff like that, which is why we want to try and use the best possible declaration or variable declaration possible. So if we're going to have a small number, just use an int. So in this case, well, we know we're not going to have anybody that's going to be into the billions of age, so an int is perfect. It's small and it works, and it keeps the memory small. So anyway, the big part of this is int my current age, and for me, that is 42. And
Old man.
Old man! Yes. C++ likes to end with semicolons. Not all languages like to end with semicolons. Some you can put it in there, it won't have any effect at all. It's just there. Some are more forgiving than others. Okay, so our second number that we need, another int, is the current year. Oh, right. So keeping with the camel case, we start lowercase, and then each new word is a capital. Like current, then year gets the capital. And equals, we are in 2022. Okay, so these parts of the names, these are a declaration. if somebody was asking you to declare a variable for your first name, you would, in my case, I would use my capital F first, and then capital N for name. Um, Simple stuff like that. Doesn't have to be rocket science, doesn't have to be fantastic or imaginative. Some people get it right into it, some people get lazy with it. Usually, the best practice is try and name it for the job it's doing or the variable that it's holding. And it makes it that much easier for you to read and that much easier for somebody else to read down the road. Um, because if you do something now and then you look back at it even 6 months from now, actually probably even just 3 months from now, you're going to say, what the hell was I doing? Um, as it was for me, just seeing this for the first time without actually reading the comments, I looked through quickly and I'm like, okay, I see some variables doing some things. Where were the variables initially initiated? They weren't. Okay, that's what your task was most likely. Um, so yeah, and that's also where commenting comes in a huge way. But yeah, beyond that, how you name variables, it's not really a big deal. Not at the end of the day. But my recommendation is stick to the same format. So in this case, we're using camel case, and try and name it as it shows you for the job it's going to be doing. And that'll help you keep track of things and makes everything smoother and easier. So in this case, we've now, like I said, initialized an integer. I am, or my current age is 42, and int, the current year, is 2022. Great. So now let's see if I can run this. No, I cannot. In function int main error, my new age, my current age plus. Oh, okay. Because it was an int. Right. See? You're going to be pulling your hair out if you do get into too much programming, because a lot of this is just this part. It's usually silly typos or missing stuff like that. Is the end of the day is the worst of it. Um, for what you're going to be doing, the introduction to programming is great. Hopefully they will follow it up with scripting, because that's what you're actually going to be probably more likely to focus on. And scripting, the whole point of it, Microsoft Windows has its thing for scripting. I think they use PowerShell, and Linux distros use Bash, and I think Mac uses something similar to Bash as well, if not Bash itself. And it's purely for the sake of automating things that you have to repeat every day. So instead of you going in and opening this, opening that, setting this up, setting that up, you just create a script, run the script, and it would do everything for you automatically. Huge time saver, and depending on who you're working for and what you're doing, it could be a huge money saver. So let's try and run this again. Hey! Oh god. I'm gonna be 70 in 2050 apparently. Poop. Anyway, I hope that helps. If it doesn't, send me your questions. I'm happy to cover any of this. I've redone the foundations of programming for literally every language that I've learned. So I've done it 5 times now, I think. So
I've done it once.
it's in there, and yeah, she's done it once. So she feels your pain.
Well, twice actually, because I did CSS and
Oh yeah.
HTML.
Anyway, let me know how you made out.